It's because politicians decided you didn't need it. It's because politicians decided they knew how to spend your money better. And to this day, our transportation is still crumbling. We still don't have enough money for education. We should balance our budget just like you do at the kitchen table. Just like our citizens do at the kitchen table, we should have priority-based budgeting that says we need to spend money on the must-haves first, the we absolutely have to haves first, before the we wants. And we turn that upside down in Colorado. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, to this discussion we had earlier on the bill, there was some discussion that we're somehow unique in the aspect of taxpayer bill of rights. That's somewhat true, but the assertion was made that no other state had anything like this. They had no other limit on big government spending. I warned this body the last couple of years about Colorado's repeated attempt to use California playbook in gutting the taxpayer bill of rights and gutting taxpayer refunds. So let me read you something. Limit the growth in appropriations made by the state and individual local governments. The limit in the rate of growth is the percentage increase in the cost of living and the percentage increase in the state or local government's population. Require state and local governments to return any funds to taxpayers in excess of the amount appropriated for a given fiscal year. Require the state to reimburse local governments for the cost of complying with state mandates. Now, part of that should sound familiar, should sound very familiar. In fact, this is language from the 1979 California Proposition 4 called the GAN limit, that's G-A-N-N. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights was modeled after the GAN limit. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights allows government spending to grow each year at the rate of inflation plus population. I want to read that again just to make sure people understand what I just said. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights allows government spending to grow each year at the rate of inflation plus population. So Tabor actually allows the government to grow when its population grows, when inflation grows. And the government can increase faster whenever voters consent. Consent is another important part of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Likewise, tax rates can be increased whenever voters consent. Now, we all know that California's finances are a mess. It's been blogged about, it's been written about extensively in The Economist, other publications. So let me ask you something. If they had the GAN limit, which is very close to Tabor, what happened? Well, in 1987, the state rebated $1.1 billion in excess revenue to taxpayers. And that rebate really upset some folks. So the California Teachers Association placed Proposition 98 on the 1988 ballot. Proposition 98 should sound really familiar to you too. Puts legal floor under school spending, requires excess GAN limit money go into education rather than to rebates to the taxpayers. Does that sound familiar to you based on our conversations today about this bill? It should. The increases in education spending, however, came at an expense of other state programs and generated some hostility towards the GAN limit. So in 1990, the transportation lobby in California got Proposition 111 on the ballot. Listen to this. This should sound like a conversation we had earlier right at this podium. Proposition 111 raised the spending limit by tying the limit to per capita personal income growth instead of inflation, and the GAN limit ceased to be effective. I wonder why. Well, it's because personal income per capita is a lot more generous, a lot more than population plus inflation. What happened to California, the disgrace, is a stuff of economic legend. Which should be the richest state in America is also its poorest. Since that state obtains most of its tax revenue through progressive income taxes, there wasn't a meaningful constraint when the state's spending exploded during the dot-com bubble, a 48% increase, with a resulting $38 billion budget shortfall, and budget deficits that Californians are still paying off to this very day. So what this bill does, gentle members of the public and members of the General Assembly, we are essentially following and accelerating the California plan by ensuring the taxpayer Bill of Rights ceases to be a meaningful restraint, by virtually ensuring taxpayers never receive another tax refund from the state, by diverting the money to education and transportation. We're basically bundling Prop 98 and Prop 111 into this bill. So let's look and see what actually happened to California when they said Prop 111, that money is going to go into transportation. That's how they got it passed. Their roads that were full of potholes, drivers very frustrated by traffic and long lines. Let's just take a look how the transportation fared on the weakening of the GAN limit. According to the Orange County Register, in 2017, there actually was a surprise that the GAN limit wasn't quite dead yet because they reached such a high rate of revenue. California bureaucrats immediately pointed to California's roads, freeways, and bridges, said they're crumbling. We can't give any rebates to taxpayers. We need to keep that and spend on transportation. Those taxes, those refunds are desperately needed to save California from ruin. So demonstrating not much has changed in a quarter century, the Orange Register says, the promoters of Prop 11 trotted out long lists of projects that would be completed with the billions of dollars in new revenue. Advertising focused on the benefits of Prop 111 without ever mentioning taxes. And even though these tax hikes were permanent, the promoters promised it would solve all the transportation infrastructure problems. However, here's the but, and this is what you can expect in this new world order here in Colorado. The legislature was never shy about diverting the revenue to other general fund purposes. The money was supposed to go to transportation. 30 years after the passage of Proposition 111, legislators are still diverting $1.1 billion in truck weight fees instead of paying road repairs, still to this day. There's no guarantee. In this particular language, the same is not going to happen here. What guarantee is there that we are going to put that money into transportation? So the Orange County Register asks, how can we seriously take our politicians' requests for higher gas and car taxes, already tops in the nation, and by the way, that's coming next as a gas tax, when they won't implement these common sense reforms? This bill is a blank check to government who doesn't trust you with your own money. Your money is their money, the way they see it, and in California proves if you have taxpayer money, they want to spend it. Back to the question, why haven't taxpayers received refunds? It's because politicians decided you didn't need it. It's because politicians decided they knew how to spend your money better. And to this day, our transportation is still crumbling. We still don't have enough money for education. We should balance our budget just like you do at the kitchen table. Just like our citizens do at the kitchen table. We should have priority-based budgeting that says we need to spend money on the must-haves first, the we absolutely have to haves first, before the we wants. And we turn that upside down in Colorado.
You brought me that for my birthday.
All the I wants, the little buckets full of this and that and this and that, instead of putting it in transportation, we had $1 billion extra, $1 billion extra the next year, and the next year. Where did that money go?
And I explained to you all that.
Not enough to fund our roads and bridges, which are still crumbling. And you're going to trust this government with your money again?
I bought another bottle of it.
I don't think so, folks. Why does rush to Californiaize everything in this state? From air quality to grabbing tax refunds without consent? These are not things to emulate.
When Rock got stuck,
I don't want to be California. If I did, I would have moved there. Let Colorado be Colorado. Ask for no vote on this bill.